Tonight, a major warning from a former Russian official under Vladimir Putin. He says Putin is so determined to stop President Biden from winning re-election that he's plotting various ways to sabotage him in the summer or early fall. A very specific warning coming from Vladimir Milov, a former Russian energy minister.
I certainly believe, like 100%, that Putin will be doing things in summer, early autumn to actually harm Biden's position ahead of the elections, be it, I don't know, some impacting the international oil market with supply disruptions so that the prices go up, US gasoline becomes more expensive, there is a spike in inflation, whatever, or certain acts of sabotage using his allies like Iran or Iranian proxies in the Middle East to disturb security situation there. It can be anything. Also the attacks in Russia's neighborhood, covert sabotage attacks that I've just mentioned. But I really think this is actually the signal that I'm getting from my sources in Moscow that Putin is so eager to get Biden out so that he will really do something to complicate his re-election and to complicate his political standing. So that's really worth expecting.
All right, out front now, Steve Hall, the former CIA chief of Russia operations. So, Steve, I had that conversation with Vladimir last night. How seriously do you take his warning?
Well, I think it's a great warning, and I think it's pretty commonsensical. I mean, there is really no strong calculation, no difficult calculation for Vladimir Putin here when he has to choose between who he would rather be the next U.S. president. So the question then simply becomes, okay, how is he going to do it? I thought there was a couple of interesting points, raising the oil prices, thereby raising, the political pressure in the United States for low gas prices, using proxies like Iran and others. Those are all interesting things. But the bottom line, Aaron, is that we know Putin and Russia can do this. They've done it in the past in other American and non-American elections in the West. So, yeah, in my mind, there's no doubt he's going to give it a shot.
And he has already done some of what Milov warned about, right? I mean, he interfered in U.S. elections. He's actually backed oil production cuts that raise prices for American consumers, right? So there's some ways that this is done sort of out in the open when it comes to the oil price in that instance. Do you think Putin even cares if he's caught this time? Because if he doesn't, does that just mean he can go further, right? That there's sort of, any restraints are off?
Yeah, that was another interesting comment that Milov made, and I think it's a good one. When we were looking at the elections previously that Russia tried to influence and may have had some success in, they were using their intelligence services to do it covertly. This is what we would refer to in the United States as covert action. These are active measures, but they tried to have some deniability. No, it wasn't Russia that was doing these things. I think Putin doesn't really care anymore. And it's not only because of who he is and where he feels he is in the world right now, but it's also he understands that it doesn't really matter perhaps that much in the American political system because of both sides, the aisle just pointing fingers at each other. Oh, it was Russia. No, it wasn't Russia. So, yeah, I think he might be a lot more brazen this time around. What's he got to lose?
It's pretty terrifying when you think about it, when you think about how disruptive it was when it was not brazen. Obviously, it makes sense of who Putin would prefer in the Trump-Biden rematch. I mean, certainly when you hear about, Trump's view, for example, on Ukraine. I mean, this is very simple on just a basic policy point of view. It's very, very clear. But it's interesting to just also take some time to look back at how Trump and Biden talk about Putin, right? Just as a basic gauge. And let me play some of that.
He's acted brutally. I think he's committed war crimes.
President Putin was a total gentleman.
You know Vladimir Putin. You think he's a killer?
Mm-hmm. I do.
It's a great honor to be with President Putin.
So, Steve, what does Putin actually think it would do for him? And I mean, maybe this is as simple as Ukraine, but what does he think it would actually do if Trump is president again for Putin?
Oh, it checks a whole lot of boxes for him, Aaron. I mean, you start with Ukraine. What's Biden's position? More money, try to convince Congress to keep it going, rally NATO and other allies. So that box is easy because Trump says, yeah, we don't need any more money to go to Ukraine. You look at NATO, Biden is very supportive of NATO. But Trump has said they're not paying their dues. It's very transactional. Wider among the allies, again, very transactional on Trump's part. Biden continues to work to try to preserve the post-World War II security structure, which Russia very much doesn't like, along with its the axis of evil allies. So yeah, this is a no-brainer for Putin. He would much rather have Donald Trump than Joe Biden as the next president.
All right, thank you very much, Steve Hall.